It's pretty amazing when you think about it, the level of dedication it takes to care for someone with special needs. You know,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
a 24/7 commitment.
Yeah,
Really is.
it is.
And that's where respite care comes in, right?
Right.
Offering a vital, like, temporary break for these incredible caregivers.
Yeah.
So today, we're diving deep into something that you, the listener, may be considering
Yeah.
starting a business to provide this support.
Yeah.
This isn't just business, though, is it?
It's not, no.
It's about tackling a real need for families right here in our communities.
Absolutely. And we've seen, I think, just an increased understanding of how essential respite care is for families.
Yeah,
And it's not a luxury. Like, a lot of times it's a very critical support system
for sure.
to prevent caregiver burnout,
Right.
to
Yeah.
ensure that quality care is maintained.
ASAC.
And we've looked at, everything from practical step-by-step guides
Hmm.
to things like market trends to financial planning tools to kind of, really understand the nuts and bolts of this.
Yeah. So our goal today is to break this all down for you.
Yeah.
Give you a clear picture based on all this information of what's involved in launching a respite care business focused on these individuals with special needs.
Right.
All right, let's get right to it. For those who might be less familiar, what exactly is respite care?
Respite care is, in simple terms, temporary relief for primary caregivers
Okay.
of individuals with disabilities, chronic illnesses, or even elderly folks.
Okay.
It's a chance for caregivers to take a break and really recharge.
Gotcha.
And this is so important in preventing caregiver burnout, which can be physically, emotionally, financially draining.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It's like hitting the pause button for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not just about the caregiver getting a break, right?
Right.
What are the benefits for the person receiving the care?
Well, the benefits for the care recipient are substantial.
Okay.
Respite care ensures that they continue to receive care
Mm-hmm.
while the primary caregiver is away.
Yeah.
And it can also provide, like if you think about adult day centers, opportunities to socialize,
Okay.
opportunities to engage in activities,
Yep.
which can really enrich their lives.
So it's a positive experience for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, if someone is looking into respite care, what different types of services are available?
So there are several different, I guess you could say, models.
Right.
One of the most common is in-home respite care,
Mm-hmm.
where a caregiver will come to the individual's home.
Okay.
And that can range from, a few hours during the day to overnight support.
Okay.
You also have adult day centers,
Mhm.
which offer daytime care and activities in a community setting. For more intensive needs, you have residential respite care,
Okay.
which provides short-term stays
Gotcha.
in, facilities like nursing homes or assisted living facilities. And then finally, you have specialized respite care,
Okay.
which is tailored for individuals with specific conditions, Alzheimer's or autism.
Okay. So there's quite a variety.
There is,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in-home care, I'm assuming, has some lower initial overhead since you don't have to have a facility.
Right, that's a good point.
But then you have the logistical considerations of travel and things like that.
That's right. You have to schedule caregivers and think about travel time.
Yeah, for sure. Now, who generally qualifies for these services? Is there a set of criteria?
Yeah. So generally, respite care is for families and caregivers who are providing ongoing care
That
for an individual with a significant health challenge or disability.
okay.
Eligibility will often depend on how the services are being paid for.
Okay.
So if a family is paying privately, the requirements may be less formal than if they're seeking coverage through insurance or government programs like Medicaid, which often have their own eligibility rules and application processes.
Okay, so there's clearly a need. You mentioned earlier that the demand for quality respite care is growing.
It is.
What's driving this increase?
Well, the increasing demand is really fueled by a few things. But I think, the primary one is the fundamental role that respite care plays
Mm-hmm.
in supporting the health and well-being of both the caregiver and the care recipient. We talked about preventing burnout,
Right.
and we're seeing this growing need reflected in trends across the U.S. Places like Syracuse, New York, are illustrating this broader demand, whether families are using their own funds or accessing Medicaid support.
And this isn't just an assumption. Are there figures, actual figures that demonstrate this growth?
Absolutely, yeah. So the respite care market, it's part of a larger home health care and long-term care sector.
Yeah.
And that sector is experiencing consistent growth. Projections indicate that this trend will continue, largely due to the aging baby boomer population.
Okay.
So, by 2030, everyone in that generation will be over 65.
Well,
And that's going to lead to, a huge increase in the demand for elder care services, including respite.
okay.
Looking at market size, the global home health care market, and that includes respite care, was valued at approximately $281.8 billion dollars in 2019.
Okay.
And it's projected to reach around $354.3 billion dollars by 2026,
Wow.
with an estimated annual growth rate of around 3.6%.
Those are big numbers.
Yeah.
So the aging population is a huge factor there.
It is a huge driver. We're seeing a higher prevalence of age-related conditions like dementia, which often require intensive round-the-clock care.
Yeah.
You also have changing family structures.
Yeah.
We have more single-parent households, and with increased participation of women in the workforce, fewer family members are available to provide that full-time care. For sure.
So this naturally leads more families to seek external respite care options.
What does the competitive landscape look like for someone thinking of starting a respite care business?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of established players?
So, the market kind of includes a mix of, local independent providers and larger national chains.
Okay.
I think often the key differentiators are, quality of care, specialization in specific needs, maybe dementia or autism spectrum disorder, and then, of course, cost. There's definitely a trend toward more specialized services
Okay.
to address the diverse needs of families. We've seen that focusing on a specific need like respite care for families with children on the autism spectrum who also exhibit sensory sensitivities
Right.
can be a powerful differentiator.
Right.
This requires specialized training and a tailored environment,
Sure.
but it addresses a very specific pain point for many families. Yeah. And I imagine there's a fair amount of regulation involved in operating this type of service.
Oh, yeah. Regulatory considerations are significant.
Okay.
These include state-specific licensing requirements for the business,
Mm-hmm.
the qualifications and training that caregivers need to have,
Yeah,
stringent safety standards to protect clients.
for sure.
It's also crucial to have a solid understanding of how these services are funded,
Okay.
whether it's through private payments, insurance coverage, or government programs like Medicaid.
Right.
These policies can significantly influence both the demand for and the accessibility of respite care services.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that someone might encounter when starting a respite care business right now?
So I think one of the main challenges, and you see this across a lot of healthcare sectors, is potential staff shortages.
Mhm.
Finding
Yeah.
qualified and reliable caregivers can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
However, this also presents an opportunity for businesses that can offer, competitive compensation, good benefits, a supportive work environment.
Sure.
Another opportunity I would say is in technology.
Yep.
How can we use technology to enhance efficiency and service delivery?
Mm-hmm.
So this could include, online platforms for families to easily schedule and manage respite care,
Right.
even exploring telehealth options to supplement in-person support.
Makes sense. Looking ahead, what are some of the key trends you anticipate in the respite care industry?
I think we're likely to see a continued increase in the demand for in-home care services
Okay.
as more individuals, express a preference to receive care in their own homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then any future shifts in healthcare policy and funding, particularly those concerning long-term care insurance and Medicaid programs, could have a substantial impact on the market dynamics for respite care.
So if someone is serious about taking that first step towards starting a respite care business, what would you say is the most important initial action they should take?
Market research,
Okay.
conduct thorough, in-depth market research.
Wow.
They need to understand the needs in their local community.
Mm-hmm.
What types of respite services are already available.
Like the ones we were talking about in Syracuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are there any unmet needs or gaps in service that their potential business could fill?
Right.
Understanding their potential clients and and how they typically finance respite care, whether it's through private funds, insurance, or Medicaid, will be critical in shaping their business model and ensuring its sustainability.
Hmm.
Beyond just looking at existing services, consider conducting surveys
Right.
with local caregiver support groups or analyzing demographic data for
Okay.
specific conditions, to really uncover those deeper, more nuanced needs.
Okay, so detailed research is that first crucial step.
It is.
Once that's done, what's the next major area they need to focus on? It sounds like um, getting the right certifications and qualifications is really important.
Oh, yeah. Becoming a certified respite care provider is a critical step.
Okay.
And it's important to understand that the specific qualifications can vary quite a bit depending on the state,
Oh, okay.
where you plan to operate.
So California might be different than Ohio or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the requirements in California may be significantly different from those in Ohio.
Gotcha.
But generally, you can expect to complete training programs
Yeah, okay.
that cover the fundamental principles of respite care,
Hmm.
essential emergency procedures, um, you know, understanding the needs of individuals with disabilities,
Right.
and obtaining this certification. It not only enhances your credibility with potential clients and funding sources,
Right.
but it ensures that you're meeting those state regulations.
And it's not just one general certification, right? There
Right.
could be several different licenses and permits required.
Yeah, depending on the scope and the types of respite care services you plan to offer, you might need to obtain several different licenses and permits.
Okay.
A foundational business license is usually the first step
Okay.
that grants you the legal right to operate in your city or county.
Right.
Beyond that, if your services involve, tasks like administering medication or providing skilled nursing care, you'll likely need a healthcare license
Okay.
issued by your state's health department or a relevant regulatory body.
Okay.
This ensures that your staff have the necessary medical qualifications
Mm-hmm.
and that you're adhering to standards of medical care.
Mm-hmm.
For businesses that primarily provide non-medical care in clients' homes,
Right.
a home care license from your state's Department of Health or a specific licensing board might be mandatory.
Okay.
If you plan to operate your business from a physical facility,
Right.
you'll also need to secure zoning permits
Okay.
from your local zoning office or city planning department to ensure that your chosen location complies with local land use laws.
So what about if you're specializing in certain areas?
Yeah, if you intend to provide specialized respite care services for individuals with specific disabilities or medical conditions, you might need to obtain specialty licenses
What?
from state or even federal regulatory bodies
Okay.
that oversee services for those particular populations.
Right.
Additionally, if you plan to hire employees,
Right.
you will need to obtain an EIN
Okay.
from the IRS.
Okay.
Comprehensive background check clearances are also universally required for all staff members,
Yeah.
often for the business owners as well, particularly when working with vulnerable individuals.
Makes sense.
And then finally, ensuring OSHA compliance by completing relevant OSHA-approved safety training
Oh, right.
is crucial for maintaining a safe working environment.
Right, because you have to think about the safety of the staff as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
OSHA requires you to have training and protocols in place.
To ensure the safety of your staff.
Yeah.
Things like, proper lifting techniques to avoid injuries or procedures for handling potentially hazardous materials.
Yeah. So what are the concrete steps someone needs to take to actually get all these licenses and certifications in order?
All right, so the very first step is always research.
Okay.
Research the specific requirements in your state and local area.
Okay.
This often involves visiting official websites of relevant government agencies
Right.
and directly contacting those regulatory bodies
Okay.
to get the most up-to-date information.
Yep.
Next, you'll need to enroll in and successfully complete any mandatory training programs or certification courses.
Okay.
And once you've completed the required training, you'll then need to submit formal applications
Okay.
for the licenses and permits, making sure to pay any associated application fees.
Yep.
If your business operates from a physical location, be prepared for inspections related to, health and safety and zoning regulations.
It's also important to remember that obtaining these licenses and certifications isn't a one-time task.
Right.
You'll need to maintain ongoing compliance,
Okay.
which includes renewing your licenses and permits according to the established schedules.
It sounds like navigating all these requirements could be kind of overwhelming.
It can be, yeah.
Do you have any advice on how someone can make sure they're on the right track and not missing anything important?
Yeah, engaging with legal professionals or consultants
Okay.
who specialize in healthcare services can be a really valuable investment.
Okay.
These experts understand the complex regulatory landscape,
Right.
and they can provide you with tailored guidance
Okay.
to ensure that you obtain and maintain all those necessary credentials.
Okay. So you've done your thorough research.
Right.
You've navigated the legal and certification landscape.
Right.
What's the next critical piece of the puzzle?
Yep.
I'm guessing it involves putting together a well-structured plan.
You got it. Developing a comprehensive business plan is absolutely essential.
Okay.
This document is going to be your roadmap
Right.
and should provide, detailed information on every aspect of your proposed business,
Okay.
from, the respite care services you'll offer to your operational model,
Mhm.
to your marketing strategies, to your financial projections.
Mm-hmm.
Crucially, it should also outline your plan for becoming a respite provider,
Right.
including how you will recruit, train, and retain qualified respite care workers,
Okay.
even detailing their specific job descriptions and duties.
And when you're putting together this business plan, one of the foundational decisions you'll need to make is how to legally structure your business, right?
Right. Yeah.
What are the main options, and are some structures better suited for respite care than others?
Yeah, that's a good question. The legal structure you choose will have significant implications for your personal liability, how your business is taxed, and just the overall administrative burden.
Mm-hmm.
The primary options are sole proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, which can be either S corp or C corp, and then limited liability companies,
Right.
or LLCs.
LLCs. Okay, so let's get into those a bit more. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each, particularly when we're thinking about a respite care business?
Okay. So a sole proprietorship, it's generally the simplest business structure.
Okay.
The owner has complete control over all the business decisions,
Hmm.
and it's straightforward tax reporting.
Okay.
The drawback is that the owner is personally liable for all business debts
Oh, okay.
and legal liabilities, which, in the healthcare sector can be a big risk.
Yeah.
A partnership involves two or more owners.
Okay.
It's also relatively easy to establish
Okay.
and allows for pooling of capital and expertise.
But similar to sole proprietorships, all partners typically share personal liability
Gotcha.
for the business's obligations.
Okay.
Corporations offer the strongest level of protection against personal liability,
Okay.
and they can raise capital more easily through the sale of stock.
Mm-hmm.
However, they're more complex and costly to set up.
Okay.
And C corporations face this issue of double taxation,
Okay.
where profits are taxed at the corporate level,
Right.
and again, when distributed to shareholders.
Okay. And then there's the LLC, which you mentioned is often a good choice, especially in this field.
Right.
What makes it so well suited?
So the LLC structure kind of strikes this favorable balance for a lot of small business owners,
Okay.
especially in respite care.
Right.
So one of the most significant advantages is limited liability protection.
Okay.
So this means that the personal assets of the owners are protected
Gotcha.
from the business's debts and liabilities.
Right.
And this is crucial in healthcare.
Yeah, where potential lawsuits can arise. For sure. Additionally, LLCs offer tax flexibility, allowing owners to choose how they want to be taxed,
Okay.
either as a sole proprietorship, partnership, or S corp,
Okay.
depending on what's best for their financial situation.
Okay.
Operationally, LLCs are less complex to manage than corporations. They
Right.
provide more flexibility in management structure.
Okay.
And then finally, forming an LLC can enhance credibility
Gotcha.
in the eyes of potential clients and funding institutions.
So in addition to that, I mean, professional liability insurance is critical.
Absolutely.
And the LLC structure, helps protect you in the event of a lawsuit.
Right.
Which is why it's often favored over the sole proprietorship.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for many looking to start a respite care business, it sounds like an LLC might be the most advantageous structure.
It often is. Yeah.
offering that liability protection and operational flexibility.
Mm.
Okay, so you've got your business plan in place. You know how you're legally structured. How do you go about securing funding to launch this thing and ensure you have the resources to operate effectively?
So securing funding and obtaining the right insurance are absolutely vital for launching and sustaining a respite care business.
Okay.
You need to understand the financial landscape,
Mm-hmm.
who typically pays for respite care in your target market.
Right.
You may need to actively seek initial funding,
Okay.
and ensure that you have insurance coverage.
Okay, so what kind of initial expenses should someone anticipate when they're first starting out?
Okay, so the initial funding requirements can cover a wide range of expenses.
Okay.
Foremost are the costs associated with obtaining those licenses and permits.
Right.
If you plan to operate from a physical location, you will have facility-related costs.
Mm-hmm.
This could include leasing or purchasing the property renovations
Okay.
to ensure accessibility for clients with disabilities.
You will need to invest in equipment and supplies,
Yeah.
which might include, both medical and non-medical items, basic office equipment,
Okay.
potentially specialized care equipment.
Okay.
Technology plays a huge role.
Yeah.
So you should factor in the cost of scheduling and billing software, client management systems,
Right.
a website.
Right.
And then, of course, you have insurance.
Yep.
You have your initial marketing and advertising efforts
Okay.
to reach clients.
Yep.
And then the expenses related to conducting background checks and providing training for your staff.
Right.
One thing I'll add is, you might consider utilizing virtual office services, at least in the initial stages, as a way to minimize some of those early facility costs.
That's a good point. And what about the ongoing expenses once the business is up and running? So ongoing operational expenses will include, primarily salaries and wages for your staff, along with benefits.
Right.
If you're operating from a physical facility, you will have maintenance costs, utility costs. You'll also need to budget for, ongoing supplies and equipment, insurance premiums, and marketing to attract new clients and maintain visibility.
You mentioned a general budget estimate earlier.
Yeah.
Could you provide a range?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, of what someone might be looking at for both startup costs and ongoing expenses.
Yeah, so for a small to medium-sized business, the initial startup costs could range from around $50,000 to $100,000.
Right.
This can vary, depending on whether you're offering in-home services or operating a facility-based service.
Sure.
Which will likely involve higher upfront investments.
Gotcha.
Monthly operating expenses for a similar size business could range from $20,000 to $50,000. And this includes, salaries for caregivers and staff, rent, utilities, supplies, insurance, and marketing.
Yep.
Of course, these are just estimates, and creating a detailed financial projection based on your business plan is really important.
Yeah.
There are budget calculators available that can help you develop a more personalized estimate.
So how do you actually go about securing that initial funding to get the business off the ground?
Yeah.
Where do those startup funds typically come from?
So there are several potential sources.
Okay.
Many entrepreneurs start by using their personal savings,
Okay.
though this may not always be enough.
Yeah.
Seeking business loans from banks or financial institutions is another option.
Okay.
In the U.S., the SBA offers loan programs specifically for small businesses,
Right.
often with favorable terms.
Right.
You might consider seeking investment from angel investors or venture capitalists
Okay.
who are interested in healthcare. And then finally, research whether there are government grants or private foundation grants available for healthcare businesses, particularly those serving, underserved communities.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Oh.
Do you have any final financial planning tips for someone, starting out in this field?
I do. First and foremost, create a detailed and realistic business plan.
Okay.
That includes a financial section.
Okay.
This should outline your anticipated costs,
Mm-hmm.
as well as revenue projections.
Yep.
It's also critical to monitor your cash flow
Okay.
to ensure that you have enough to cover your expenses.
Right.
Additionally, it's wise to set aside a contingency fund
Okay.
for unexpected financial challenges.
Right.
And in the early stages, seriously consider reinvesting profits
Right.
back into the business
Right.
to fuel growth and expand your services.
Okay, so you've got your business structured, you secured funding. Now, how do you let people know about your services
Right.
and attract the clients you need?
So effective marketing is key to attracting clients and communicating how your services meet the needs of your community.
Hmm.
Establishing a strong online presence is crucial.
Okay.
This includes developing a professional website
Okay.
that provides information about your services, the qualifications of your staff, contact details,
Right.
including testimonials from families,
Okay.
can build trust and credibility.
Yep.
You'll also want to optimize your website for search engines
Right.
using relevant keywords.
So it's not just about having a website, it's making sure people can actually find it.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so what other marketing strategies have you found to be effective?
So leveraging social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn can be very effective.
Okay.
Um, share content related to respite care,
Hmm.
share stories that highlight the impact of your work,
Okay.
regular updates about your services.
Mm.
Many of these platforms offer targeted advertising options